Captain Jinwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderstrike, watching the stars through the main view screen. His ship was heading home after 3 weeks of patrol duty along the outer rim. The crew was tired but happy. They would see their families. Soon. "Captain," called So Young from the communications station. "I'm picking up some strange signals ahead." Jinwoo walked over to her station. So Young was one of his best officers. She never reported anything unless it was important. "What kind of signals?" "Unknown origin, sir. The computer can't match them to any human transmissions. They're coming from about 2 million kilometers ahead." Jinwoo felt his stomach tighten. First contact protocols were clear, but they had never been used before. Humans had been exploring space for 50 years without meeting anyone else. "Put it on the main screen." The view screen changed to show empty space. Then So Young adjusted the sensors. Small dots appeared in the distance. As the computer enhanced the image, the dots became ships. Alien ships. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Hyun-sik from the weapons station. "They're real." Jinwoo counted 12 ships in a loose formation. They were beautiful in a strange way. The hulls curved and flowed like living things. No sharp edges or straight lines like human ships. These aliens had a very different way of thinking about space travel. "So Young, are they trying to communicate with us?" "No, sir. But they're definitely scanning us. Multiple sensor sweeps coming from the lead ship." Jinwoo nodded. That made sense. They were probably as surprised to see humans as humans were to see them. "Hyun-sik, what's our weapon status?" "All systems normal, sir. Railguns loaded and ready. Nuclear torpedoes armed, but safeties are on. Antimatter warheads are in standby mode." "Good. Keep everything ready, but don't target them yet. We don't want to start a war on our first day of meeting aliens." On the lead alien ship, Admiral Kethvar was getting his first look at a human vessel. He had been exploring this part of space for the Veltan Empire when his sensors detected the strange ship. It was smaller than his flagship, but moved with surprising speed. "What do we know about them?" he asked his science officer. "Very little, Admiral. The ship appears to be made of metal alloys we don't recognize. Their propulsion system is unlike anything in our databases. No plasma trails or energy signatures that match known technology." Kethvar studied the human ship on his screen. It looked crude compared to Veltan vessels. All angles and hard edges, no grace or beauty. These creatures probably barely understood how to travel between stars. "Are there more of their ships nearby?" "Our long-range sensors show nothing, Admiral. This appears to be a single vessel, probably lost or exploring." Kethvar smiled. This was perfect. The Veltan Empire was always looking for new species to add to their collection. These humans would make fine servants once they understood Veltan superiority. "Admiral," called his communications officer, "should we attempt to make contact?" "Not yet. First, let's learn everything we can about them. Order a full deep scan of their vessel. I want to know their weapons, their technology, their weaknesses. Then we'll decide how to proceed." The scanning officer began working at his station. Deep scans took time but revealed everything about a target ship. Within minutes, they would know exactly how primitive these humans were. Back on the Thunderstrike, Chief Engineer Mina was in the engine room when alarms started beeping. She checked her instruments and frowned. Someone was scanning their ship, with very powerful sensors. The kind of scan that could see through hull plating and read internal systems. She called the bridge. "Captain, we're being scanned. Deep-level penetration. They're looking at everything. Can you block it?" "Not without raising our shields, sir. That might look hostile." Jinwoo thought for a moment. If these aliens wanted to scan his ship, he would let them. Maybe they were just curious. Let them scan us, but monitor everything they do. I want to know what they're looking for. Yes, sir. The bridge crew waited in tense silence. First contact was supposed to be a moment of wonder and excitement. Instead, it felt like standing in a dark room while someone pointed a flashlight at you. Captain, So Young said quietly, their scanning pattern is very thorough. They're examining our hull composition, our internal layout, our power systems. This isn't casual curiosity. This is a military analysis. Jin Woo felt a chill run down his spine. Maybe these aliens weren't as friendly as he had hoped. Hyun-sik, bring our weapons to ready status. Don't target them yet, but be prepared. Already on it, sir. All railgun turrets are powered up. Torpedo tubes are loaded. Should I charge the main particle beam? Not yet. We don't want to provoke them. On the Veltan ship, the scanning officer was staring at his display in confusion. The numbers couldn't be right. He ran the scan again. The same impossible results appeared on his screen. Admiral, he called, his voice shaking slightly. I think there's something wrong with our equipment. What do you mean? The scan results for the human ship, sir. They don't make sense. According to these readings, their power core is producing more energy than our main reactor. That's impossible for a ship that size. HFY walked over to the scanning station. Show me. The officer pointed to his screen. Look at these numbers, Admiral. Their reactor is running at temperatures that would melt our engines, and their weapons. He paused, checking the display again. Sir, they appear to have kinetic accelerators that fire projectiles at significant fractions of light speed. No species has that technology. You said they're weapons. What else do they have? The officer's hands trembled as he read the data. Explosive devices that use nuclear fusion, Admiral, dozens of them, and something called antimatter warheads. I don't even know what those are, but the energy readings suggest they could destroy entire moons. HFY felt the blood drain from his face. Nuclear fusion was theoretical among the Veltans. Antimatter was pure fantasy. No civilized species would put such dangerous things on a ship. Are you certain about these readings? I've checked 3 times, Admiral. Either our scanners are completely broken, or this small human ship carries enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet. HFY stared at the human vessel on his screen. It didn't look dangerous. It looked primitive and crude. But the scanner readings told a different story. These humans had weapons that belonged in nightmares, not on exploration vessels. Sir, called his communications officer. The human ship is hailing us. What? They're sending a transmission, Admiral. It appears to be an attempt at communication. HFY realized he was sweating. First contact protocol demanded that he respond to communication attempts. But these weren't the primitive aliens he had expected. These humans might be the most dangerous species the Veltan Empire had ever encountered, and they wanted to talk. On the Thunderstrike, Jin Woo waited for a response to his hail. The alien ships had been scanning his vessel for 10 minutes. It was time to make proper contact. Any response from them, So Young? Not yet, sir, but their scanning has stopped. I think we got their attention. Jin Woo nodded. The first words, between humanity and an alien species, would be spoken today. He hoped they would be words of peace and friendship. He had no idea that 12 alien ships were currently debating whether to run away or surrender. On the Veltan flagship, scanning technician Vrextal stared at his display screen in disbelief. He had been operating deep scan equipment for 15 years. He knew how to read energy signatures and weapon classifications. But the data coming from the human ship made no sense at all. Computer, run diagnostic on scanning array, he said, hoping his equipment was broken. All systems operating within normal parameters, the computer replied. Vrextal looked at the numbers again. The human ship's power core was reading as a controlled fusion reaction. Not the clean plasma generators that Veltan ships used, but actual nuclear fusion. The kind that powered stars. How could any species be crazy enough to put a miniature star inside their ship? He scrolled down to the weapons data and felt his heart skip a beat. The humans had kinetic weapons that accelerated projectiles to 20% of light speed. Veltan weapons could barely reach 1%. These railguns could punch through any known armor like it was paper. But that wasn't the worst part. The computer had identified something called nuclear warheads in the human torpedo bay. Vrextal ran a translation program to understand what nuclear meant. When the results appeared, he had to sit down. Nuclear weapons used the same process as their power core. These humans had taken the power of stars and made bombs out of it. The computer estimated that just one of their torpedoes could destroy a Veltan cruiser completely, and they had 48 of them. This can't be right, Vrextal whispered. He ran another scan, focusing on the weapons bay. The results were the same. 48 nuclear warheads, each one capable of destroying a city. Then he saw something that made him call for his supervisor. At the back of the weapons bay, the scanner had detected 6 objects that made nuclear bombs look like toys. The computer couldn't identify them completely, but the energy signature was unlike anything in Veltan databases. Antimatter, he read from the screen. Estimated yield, planet killer class. Vrextal's hands shook as he reached for his communication device. Admiral Kethvar needed to see this immediately. On the Thunderstrike, So Young was monitoring the alien scanning activity when she noticed something strange. The aliens had stopped their broad-spectrum scan and were now focusing only on the weapons bay. "Captain," she called, "they're really interested in our armament." Jinwoo walked over to her station. "What do you mean?" "They've been scanning our railgun turrets for 5 minutes straight. Now they're looking at the torpedo bay. It's like they can't believe what they're seeing." Lieutenant Hyun-sik looked up from his weapons console. "Maybe they don't have kinetic weapons in their civilization. Some species might focus on energy weapons instead." Chief Engineer Mina's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "Captain, I'm reading some strange energy fluctuations from the alien ships. Their power signatures are dropping." "Dropping? Are they having technical problems?" "I don't think so, sir. It looks more like they're powering down their weapon systems." Jinwoo frowned. That was an odd response to first contact. Most military commanders would keep their weapons ready during an unknown situation. Unless these aliens were much more peaceful than humans expected. "Keep monitoring them, Mina. Let me know if anything else changes." On the Veltan flagship, Admiral Kethvar was reading Vrextal's report for the 3rd time. Each time he hoped the numbers would be different. Each time they got worse. "You're telling me," he said slowly, "that this single human ship has enough weapons to destroy our entire fleet?" "Yes, Admiral," Vrextal replied. "And according to the ship classification, data we intercepted, this is what they call a destroyer. That means it's one of their smaller warships." Kethvar felt dizzy. If this was a small ship, what did their large ships look like? What kind of species needed weapons powerful enough to crack planets? "Sir," called Science Officer Kethmore from across the bridge. "I've been analyzing the human ship's construction. Their hull is made of materials we've never seen before. Dense metal alloys that could withstand direct hits from our plasma cannons. And their reactor shielding suggests they're containing fusion reactions that would melt our ships." "How is that possible?" "I don't know, Admiral. But these humans appear to have mastered technologies we consider impossible. They're using controlled nuclear fusion for power, kinetic acceleration beyond our theoretical limits, and they've somehow created stable antimatter containment. Kethvar sank into his command chair. The Veltan Empire prided itself on being the most advanced civilization in this region of space. They had conquered dozens of species through superior technology and firepower, but these humans made Veltan technology look like primitive tools. Admiral, communications officer Yethra called from her station. The human ship is still trying to communicate with us. They've been sending the same signal for 10 minutes. What kind of signal? Basic mathematical sequences, followed by what appears to be linguistic data. They're trying to establish a translation protocol. Kethvar realized he was facing an impossible choice. Military doctrine said he should attack immediately before the enemy could prepare, but the scan results suggested that attacking these humans would be suicide. Their single ship could probably destroy his entire fleet without taking damage. On the other hand, ignoring them wasn't an option either. These humans were in Veltan space. They represented either a massive threat or a valuable opportunity. The Empire needed to know which one. Yethra, open a channel to the human ship. We'll attempt communication. Yes, Admiral. The bridge crew worked quickly to establish a basic translation matrix. The humans were surprisingly helpful, sending simple concepts and mathematical relationships that made the process easier. Within minutes, they had established a rough communication protocol. Admiral, Yethra announced, we have basic translation capability. The human captain wishes to speak with you. Kethvar straightened his uniform and tried to look confident. He was about to make first contact with a species that could destroy his civilization. The next few minutes might determine the fate of the Veltan Empire. Put them on screen. The main view screen changed to show the interior of the human ship. A tall, dark-haired human in a blue uniform appeared. He looked calm and professional, like this was just another routine day for him. Greetings, the human said. The translation computer rendered his words in Veltan. I am Captain Jin Woo of the United Earth ship Thunderstrike. We come in peace. Kethvar swallowed hard. The human was speaking casually as if he didn't have enough firepower to sterilize planets sitting behind him. I am Admiral Kethvar of the Veltan Empire. This is unexpected. For us as well, Admiral. This is humanity's first contact with another intelligent species. We're honored to meet you. Honored? Kethvar stared at the human captain. These people had weapons that could destroy worlds, and they were honored to meet the Veltans? Either they were incredibly polite, or they didn't understand how powerful they were. Captain Jin Woo, Kethvar said carefully, your ship is quite impressive. Our scans indicate you have very advanced technology. Jin Woo smiled. Thank you, Admiral. The Thunderstrike is a good ship, though she's getting old. We were due for a refit when this patrol mission started. Old? Kethvar felt his blood pressure rising. This ship was more advanced than anything the Veltan Empire could build, and the humans considered it outdated. Captain, if I may ask, what is your ship's primary mission? Patrol and reconnaissance, mostly. We keep an eye on the outer systems and respond to distress calls. Nothing too exciting, usually. Patrol duty. These humans used planet-killing weapons for routine patrol duty. Kethvar wondered what their actual warships looked like. On the Thunderstrike, Jin Woo was studying the alien admiral. Kethvar seemed nervous, which was understandable during first contact. But there was something else in his expression. Fear, maybe? Admiral, Jin Woo said, I should probably contact my superiors and report this meeting. First contact protocols. Require notification of Earth Command within 6 hours. Earth Command? Our military headquarters. They'll want to send diplomats and scientists to meet with your people properly. This is too important for ship captains to handle alone. Kethvar's hearts nearly stopped. If this destroyer was just a patrol ship, what would happen when the human military arrived? How many planet killers would they bring? Captain, he said, trying to keep his voice steady. How long before your reinforcements arrive? Jinwoo checked his chronometer. The nearest fleet is about 18 hours away at maximum speed. Admiral Yoonji will probably want to come personally. First contact is a pretty big deal. Admiral Kethvar closed his eyes. In 18 hours, a human fleet would arrive. A fleet that might include ships that made the Thunderstrike look like a toy. The Veltan Empire had 12 ships in this region of space. The humans apparently had fleets. He was beginning to understand that the Veltan Empire had made a very serious mistake by scanning that human ship. Admiral Kethvar ended the communication with Captain Jinwoo and immediately called his senior officers to the bridge. Science Officer Kethmore arrived first, followed by the tactical officer and chief engineer. They gathered around the central display showing the scan results from the human ship. "Gentlemen," Kethvar began, "we have a serious problem. These humans are not what they appear to be." Kethmore adjusted his scanner readings and projected them onto the main screen. "Admiral, I've verified all our data 3 times. This human destroyer carries more firepower than our entire battle group. Their smallest weapons could punch through our heaviest armor. Their largest weapons could destroy planets." "That's impossible," said Tactical Officer Rethkin. "No species develops that kind of technology for patrol ships. It would be like using star destroyers to hunt space pirates." "According to their captain," Kethvar replied grimly, "that's exactly what they do. This ship is on routine patrol duty, in their outer territories." The bridge fell silent. Every Veltan officer understood the implications. If the humans used planet killers for patrol duty, what did they use for actual warfare? "Sir," asked the chief engineer, "what kind of power? Source can contain that much energy? Our fusion generators couldn't power weapons like these." Kethmore pulled up the power readings. "They're using controlled nuclear fusion, but not like our clean plasma systems. They're actually creating and containing stellar-level fusion reactions inside their ship. The temperatures and pressures involved should melt any known material. And yet their ship is intact," Kethvar observed, "which means they have material science far beyond our understanding." Rethkin studied the weapon signatures. "Admiral, look at these kinetic accelerators. They're firing solid projectiles at 20% light speed. The kinetic energy alone would be devastating, even without explosive warheads." "But they do have explosive warheads," Kethmore added. "Nuclear fusion warheads. Each one carries the destructive force of a small star going supernova." The tactical officer's face turned pale. "How many nuclear weapons did the scan detect?" 48 standard nuclear torpedoes," Kethmore read from his display, "plus 6 antimatter warheads of unknown yield." "Antimatter," Kethvar repeated. "Our physicists say antimatter weapons are theoretical impossibilities. The containment alone would require more energy than we could generate. Yet somehow these humans have made it work, and they've put 6 of them on a patrol ship." On the Thunderstrike, Lieutenant Hyun-sik was monitoring the alien fleet's activities when he noticed something strange. The 12 Veltan ships had changed formation. Instead of the aggressive wedge pattern they started with, they were now arranged in a defensive sphere. "Captain," he called to Jinwoo, "the alien ships are repositioning. It looks like they're preparing for retreat." Jinwoo walked over to the tactical station. Retreat? Why would they retreat? We haven't done anything threatening. I don't know, sir, but their weapon systems are powering down and their engines are warming up. Classic pre-jump preparation. So Young looked up from her communications console. Captain, I'm detecting a lot of chatter between the alien ships. The translation computer can't keep up with all of it, but it seems urgent. Can you make out any specific words? A few. The words weapons, dangerous, and impossible keep appearing. They also mention something about star killers and antimatter. Jinwoo frowned. Why would the aliens be discussing antimatter? The Thunderstrike only carried 6 antimatter torpedoes, and those were for absolute emergencies only. Most ship captains went their entire careers without using them. Chief Engineer Mina's voice came over the intercom. Captain, I'm reading some interesting energy signatures from the alien ships. Their power systems are much smaller than ours, and their reactor designs look almost primitive. Primitive how? They're using clean fusion, sir, very inefficient compared to our reactors. And their weapons appear to be plasma-based. No kinetic systems at all. Jinwoo began to understand. These aliens had never seen kinetic weapons before. They probably thought railguns were some kind of exotic technology. And if their own reactors were that primitive, the Thunderstrike's fusion core must look impossibly advanced to them. So, Young, try to re-establish communication with their admiral. I think there might be a misunderstanding here. Yes, sir. Back on the Veltan flagship, Admiral Kethvar was reviewing evacuation procedures when Communications Officer Yethra announced that the humans were calling again. Should I answer, Admiral? Kethvar thought for a moment. Running away without explanation would be dishonorable. And if these humans were as dangerous as they appeared, insulting them might be fatal. Put them through. Captain Jinwoo appeared on the screen again, still looking calm and friendly. Admiral Kethvar, I wanted to make sure everything was all right. My crew noticed your ship's changing formation. Everything is fine, Captain. We were simply adjusting our position for better communication. I see. Admiral, I hope we haven't done anything to concern you. This is new for both our species, and we want to make sure we start off on the right foot. Kethvar stared at the human captain. Either this Jinwoo was the best actor in the galaxy, or he genuinely didn't understand how terrifying his ship was. How could someone carry planet-killing weapons and act so casual about it? Captain Jinwoo, Kethvar said carefully, your ship is quite remarkable. We've never encountered technology like yours before. Really? Our engineers would be interested to hear that. The Thunderstrike uses pretty standard human technology. She's actually due for replacement soon. Standard technology. Due for replacement. Kethvar felt dizzy again. If this was standard, what did advanced human technology look like? Captain, if I may ask, what powers your ship? Fusion reactors, Admiral. Pretty basic stuff. We've been using fusion power for about 60 years now. 60 years. The Veltans had been trying to develop efficient fusion for 2 centuries and still hadn't perfected it. These humans had been using it for routine space travel since before Kethvar was born. And your weapon systems? Standard naval armament. Railguns for point defense and ship-to-ship combat. Nuclear torpedoes for hardened targets. The antimatter warheads are just for emergencies. Just for emergencies. Kethvar realized he was talking to someone who considered world-ending weapons to be emergency supplies. Like keeping a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. Captain, Kethvar asked, dreading the answer. What kind of enemies require such powerful weapons? Jinwoo looked confused. Enemies? We don't really have enemies, Admiral. These weapons are for asteroid clearing, space debris removal, that sort of thing. The big torpedoes can break up dangerous space rocks before they hit colonies. They used planet killers for asteroid clearing. Kethvar felt his world view crumbling. What kind of species needed to destroy asteroids with nuclear weapons? Sometimes, we use them for emergency mining, Jinwoo continued. If a colony needs raw materials fast, a few nuclear charges can crack open an asteroid and expose the mineral deposits. Nuclear mining. These humans used weapons of mass destruction the way Veltans used industrial equipment. Captain Jinwoo, Kethvar said weakly. When you mentioned your fleet arriving, how many ships should we expect? Admiral Yoon-ji will probably bring the third fleet. That's about 40 ships, including the dreadnought Leviathan. 40 ships, including something called a dreadnought. If a destroyer carried 48 nuclear weapons, what did a dreadnought carry? What is the primary armament of a dreadnought? The Leviathan? She's got the new plasma cannons that can crack continents, plus about 400 torpedo tubes. Standard loadout includes 2,000 nuclear warheads and 50 antimatter torpedoes. She's a tough old girl. 2,000 nuclear warheads, 50 antimatter torpedoes. Kethvar realized he was about to meet a human fleet that could destroy every planet in the Veltan Empire without breaking a sweat. On the Thunderstrike, Jinwoo was getting worried about Admiral Kethvar. The alien officer had gone very quiet, and his skin color seemed to be changing. Admiral, are you feeling all right? You look unwell. I'm fine, Captain. Just processing this information. Your technology is very impressive. Thank you. I should mention that Admiral Yoon-ji will want to meet with your leadership when she arrives. Maybe we can arrange some kind of cultural exchange. Cultural exchange. Kethvar wondered if the human admiral would bring her continent-cracking weapons to the diplomatic meeting. That sounds wonderful, Captain. I should contact my superiors and prepare them for your arrival. Excellent. Oh, one more thing, Admiral. Is this fleet of yours representative of Veltan military capability? My tactical officer is curious about your plasma weapons. Kethvar looked around his bridge at the 12 ships that represented the pride of the Veltan Navy, ships that these humans would probably classify as patrol boats. Yes, Captain. This is our main battle group for this sector. Interesting. Our analysts will want to study your plasma technology. We've been having trouble making plasma weapons efficient enough for ship-to-ship combat. They considered Veltan weapons inefficient. Kethvar realized that in 18 hours he would be hosting the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen, commanded by people who thought his best weapons were inadequate toys. He was beginning to wish he had never ordered that scan. Admiral Kethvar stood in his private quarters, staring out at the human destroyer through the viewport. The ship looked so ordinary from the outside. Clean lines, functional design, nothing that suggested it carried enough firepower to level. Continents. That somehow made it more terrifying. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry. "Come in," he called. Science Officer Kethmore entered, carrying a data pad and wearing the expression of someone who had discovered something unpleasant. "Admiral, I've completed my analysis of the human communication systems." "What did you find?" "They're using quantum entanglement for faster-than-light communication, sir. Real-time contact across interstellar distances. We've been trying to develop that technology for decades." Kethvar sank into his chair. "Of course they are. What else?" "More troubling, Admiral, is what I found when I analyzed their casual conversation. The human captain mentioned several things that suggest their civilization is far larger than we initially thought." "How much larger?" Kethmore consulted his data pad. "They mentioned colonies, plural. Admiral Yoon-ji commands the Third Fleet, which implies they have at least 3 separate fleets. and Captain Jinwoo referred to Earth Command as their military headquarters. Your point? Admiral, we're not looking at a single ship or even a small expedition. We're looking at representatives of a major galactic power, one that uses planet killers for routine patrol duty. Kethvar felt his stomach turn. The Veltan Empire controlled 17 star systems and considered itself a regional power. These humans might control hundreds of systems, each one protected by ships that could crack worlds. Have you been able to determine anything about their population? Not exactly, sir. But the human captain mentioned that this ship was due for replacement. That suggests they have industrial capacity to build new destroyers regularly. Building ships with antimatter weapons requires massive infrastructure. Infrastructure that we don't possess. No, sir. Our entire shipbuilding industry couldn't produce one ship like the Thunderstrike. Kethvar made a decision. Kethmore, contact the other ship captains. Emergency conference in 1 hour. We need to discuss our options. Yes, Admiral. An hour. Later, the 12 Veltan ship captains were gathered in the flagship's main conference room via holographic communication. They had all read the scan reports and understood the situation. The mood was grim. Gentlemen, Kethvar began, we need to consider the possibility of withdrawal from this sector. Captain Vorthak of the cruiser Stellar Pride spoke first. Admiral, our orders were to secure this region for the Empire. Retreat without engaging the enemy would be seen as cowardice. The enemy? Kethvar laughed bitterly. Captain, that single human ship could destroy our entire fleet without taking damage. When their reinforcements arrive in 16 hours, we'll be facing ships that make their destroyer look like a cargo hauler. Captain Yethmore of the scout ship Swift Hunter raised his hand. Admiral, what if we attempt to negotiate from a position of strength? Show them that we're not afraid? With what strength? Science Officer Kethmore interjected. Our combined firepower equals roughly 1/10 of their patrol ship's capabilities. When their battle fleet arrives, we'll have less military value than their emergency supplies. The room fell silent as the captains absorbed this information. Finally, Captain Zetharal of the heavy cruiser Iron Fist spoke up. Admiral, what do our regulations say about encounters with superior civilizations? Kethvar consulted his command. Manual. Section 47C. When encountering technologically superior species, field commanders are authorized to pursue diplomatic solutions rather than military confrontation. That regulation exists? Apparently, our ancestors were wiser than we thought. Captain Vorthak looked uncomfortable. Admiral, if we choose diplomacy over combat, how do we explain this to High Command? We tell them the truth, Kethvar replied. We encountered a human patrol ship carrying more firepower than a Veltan battle group. Military engagement would result in total fleet destruction with zero tactical gain. On the Thunderstrike, Lieutenant Hyun Sik was monitoring the alien communications when he noticed increased activity between their ships. Captain, he called to Jin Woo, the Veltan fleet is having some kind of conference. All 12 ships are connected in a communication network. Can you determine what they're discussing? The translation computer is picking up fragments. They keep mentioning withdrawal, superior force, and diplomatic solutions. So Young looked up from her station. Sir, I'm also detecting increased scanner activity. They're running deep space sweeps, looking for something. Looking for what? Unknown, Captain, but their search pattern suggests they're trying to locate additional ships. Jinwoo frowned. Are they expecting reinforcements? I don't think so, sir. The search pattern is focused on our approach vector. I think they're looking for more human ships. Chief Engineer Mina's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I'm reading power fluctuations in the alien fleet. Several ships are warming up their jump drives." "Jump drives? Are they planning to leave?" "It looks that way, sir. 3 ships have already begun pre-jump sequences." Jinwoo walked to the center of the bridge, thinking. The alien behavior was confusing. First they scanned his ship aggressively, then they became defensive. Now they seemed ready to run away. What had changed? "So young, get me Admiral Kethvar again. I want to understand what's happening." "Yes, sir." On the Veltan flagship, Admiral Kethvar was reviewing evacuation procedures when Yethra announced another human communication request. "Admiral," she said, "Captain Jinwoo is calling again." Kethvar straightened his uniform. He had decided on a strategy of polite withdrawal. No sudden movements, no aggressive actions, just a careful retreat before the human fleet arrived. "Put him through." Captain Jinwoo appeared on screen looking concerned. "Admiral Kethvar, my crew has noticed some activity in your fleet. I wanted to make sure there wasn't a problem." "No problem, Captain. We're simply preparing for the arrival of your fleet." "Preparing how?" Kethvar chose his words carefully. "We thought it might be wise to move our ships to a safer distance. We don't want to crowd your admiral when she arrives." Jinwoo looked puzzled. "Admiral, there's plenty of space here for both our fleets. You don't need to move on our account." "It's a precaution, Captain. Your Admiral Yunji might prefer room to maneuver her dreadnought. The Leviathan is big, but she's not that big. Admiral Yunji is very good at close formation flying. Close formation flying. The human admiral brought continent-cracking weapons to diplomatic meetings and flew in close formation." Kethvar wondered if all humans were completely insane. "Captain Jinwoo," he said carefully, "perhaps it would be better if we met at a neutral location, away from populated systems." "Why would we need to avoid populated systems?" "Because your weapons could accidentally sterilize planets," Kethvar thought. "It's standard diplomatic protocol in our culture." "I see. Well, Admiral Yunji will probably want to follow your customs. She's very respectful of alien traditions." Respectful. The human admiral was respectful while commanding enough firepower to destroy civilizations. Kethvar was beginning to understand that humans had a very different relationship with violence than other species. "Captain, when your fleet arrives, what are your intentions?" "Standard first contact procedures. Admiral Yunji will want to exchange cultural information, establish trade relations, maybe set up a formal embassy. Peaceful stuff. Peaceful stuff. Including weapons that could crack continents. What about territorial boundaries?" "What about them?" "Will your people respect existing territorial claims?" Jinwoo looked genuinely confused. "Of course. Why wouldn't we? We're explorers, not conquerors. Explorers who carried antimatter weapons." Kethvar realized he was talking to someone from a species that was either the most peaceful civilization in the galaxy, or so powerful that they didn't need to be aggressive. "Captain," Kethvar said slowly, "what does your government consider a reasonable response to territorial violations?" "Depends on the situation. Usually we try diplomacy first. If that doesn't work, we might impose economic sanctions. Violence is always a last resort. And if violence becomes necessary," Jinwoo shrugged, "then we use appropriate force to resolve the situation quickly. Nobody benefits from long conflicts. Appropriate force from a species that considered antimatter warheads to be emergency supplies." Kethvar shuddered to think what humans considered appropriate military response. "Captain, I should inform you that my government will need time to prepare for formal diplomatic contact. Perhaps we should schedule our meeting for later. How much later? Several months, perhaps. Jinwoo frowned. Admiral Yunji will be here in 15 hours. She's not going to turn around and go home because you need a few months to prepare. 15 hours. The human fleet was arriving earlier than expected. HFY felt panic rising in his chest. Captain, surely your admiral would understand the need for proper preparation. Admiral Yunji is very understanding, but she's also very curious. First contact with aliens is the biggest thing that's happened to humanity in centuries. She's not going to miss it. HFY realized his retreat plan wasn't going to work. The humans were coming whether he wanted them to or not. And they were, bringing enough firepower to sterilize the entire Veltan Empire. Admiral Yunji stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan, watching the tactical display as her fleet prepared to drop out of FTL. 43 ships of the Third Fleet, including 12 destroyers, 18 cruisers, 8 carriers, 4 dreadnoughts, and the flagship itself. It was an impressive force, designed to handle anything the galaxy might throw at them. Admiral, called Navigation Officer Dong Hyun, we're approaching the rendezvous coordinates, dropping to normal space in 30 seconds. Thank you, Dong Hyun. Communications, prepare to contact Captain Jinwoo as soon as we arrive. Communications specialist Young Min nodded from his station. Yes, Admiral. All channels ready? Yunji studied the tactical data from the Thunderstrike's earlier reports. 12 alien ships, plasma-based weapons, fusion power systems about 50 years behind human technology, probably peaceful, but it was always wise to be prepared. Tactical, what's our weapon status? All systems green, Admiral, replied Tactical Officer Boram. Plasma cannons charged, torpedo tubes loaded with standard mix, nuclear warheads armed and ready, antimatter reserves at full capacity. Good. Remember, this is a diplomatic mission. We're here to make friends, not enemies. The Leviathan's massive bulk dropped out of FTL with barely a tremor. One by one, the other ships of the Third Fleet materialized around her, their formation precise and professional. Within minutes, 43 human warships hung in space like a constellation of death. On the Veltan flagship, Sensor Officer Vrextal was staring at his displays in horror. Admiral, he called, his voice shaking. You need to see this. Admiral. HFY hurried to the sensor station. What is it? The human fleet, sir. They've arrived. HFY looked at the sensor readings and felt his knees go weak. 43 ships had just appeared in perfect formation. The smallest vessels were the size of Veltan cruisers. The largest ship was bigger than a Veltan space station. Computer, he said weakly. Analyze the human fleet composition. Analysis complete, the computer replied. 43 vessels detected. Energy signatures indicate mixed weapon systems, including kinetic accelerators, plasma cannons, and nuclear warheads. Estimated total firepower exceeds computational capacity. Exceeds computational capacity. Their computer couldn't even calculate how much destructive power the human fleet was carrying. Focus scan on the largest vessel, HFY ordered. The sensor display zoomed in on the Leviathan. The massive dreadnought was over 2 kilometers long, bristling with weapon turrets and launching bays. Energy readings suggested it carried a reactor powerful enough to light up a small star. Sir, Vrextal whispered, that ship could destroy our entire homeworld. HFY stared at the tactical display. The human fleet was arranged in a standard diplomatic formation, weapons powered, but not targeted. They looked peaceful and professional. They also looked like they could conquer the galaxy without breaking a sweat. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Yethra, "the human flagship is hailing us." On screen. The view screen changed to show a middle-aged human woman in a crisp blue uniform. She had kind eyes and a warm smile, which somehow made her more terrifying than any weapon. "Admiral Kethvar," she said pleasantly. "I'm Admiral Yunji of the United Earth Fleet. Captain Jinwoo has told me wonderful things about you." "Admiral Yunji," Kethvar replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Welcome to Veltan space." "Thank you. I hope you don't mind, but I brought a few ships along. First contact is such an important occasion. I wanted our best people here. A few ships." She called 43 warships a few ships. Kethvar wondered what humans considered a large fleet. "Your fleet is impressive, Admiral. The Third Fleet has served Earth well for many years. Though between you and me, some of these ships are getting old. We'll probably replace half of them within the decade." Replace them. The most powerful military force Kethvar had ever seen, and the humans considered it outdated. What did their new ships look like? "Admiral Yunji," he said carefully. "Captain Jinwoo mentioned that your people are interested in cultural exchange." "Absolutely. Our xenobiology teams are fascinated by your species. Dr. Su-jin aboard the research vessel Discovery has been studying your communication patterns. She says your linguistic structure is remarkably sophisticated." Research vessel. Kethvar looked at his tactical display and identified a ship that was larger than a Veltan cruiser. "The humans called it a research vessel. We would be honored to share our culture with your people." "Excellent. I should mention that Earth Command has authorized me to establish formal diplomatic relations if your government is interested. We're always eager to make new friends." Friends. The human admiral wanted to be friends with people whose entire military couldn't scratch the paint on her smallest ship. "I'm sure the Veltan Empire would welcome friendship with humanity." Wonderful. Now, Captain Jinwoo mentioned that you have some interesting plasma weapon technology. Our engineers would love to study your designs. Study their designs. The humans wanted to examine Veltan weapons the way scientists might study ancient artifacts. "Of course, Admiral. Though I should warn you that our technology might seem primitive compared to yours." Yunji looked genuinely surprised. "Primitive? Captain Jinwoo said your plasma systems were quite elegant. We've been trying to improve our own plasma weapons for years. Trying to improve them." Kethvar looked at the sensor readings from the human fleet. Their plasma cannons were showing energy signatures that dwarfed anything the Veltans could produce. "Admiral," he said slowly, "what do you consider the primary weakness of your current plasma weapons?" "Efficiency, mostly. They use too much power for the damage they inflict. Our kinetic weapons are much more economical." Economical. The humans were worried about the cost of running weapons that could level cities. "I see. What about your kinetic systems?" "Railguns are wonderful for ship-to-ship combat, but they're not great for precision work. Sometimes you need to remove a specific target without damaging everything around it. Precision work. These people used planet killers for precision work." On the Leviathan, Admiral Yunji was studying the Veltan fleet through her tactical display. 12 ships in a defensive formation, clearly outmatched, but maintaining their dignity. She had to admire their professionalism. "Tactical," she said to Boram. "What's your assessment of the Veltan military capability?" "They appear to be using clean fusion technology, Admiral. Plasma-based weapons with decent range but limited penetration. Overall technology level roughly equivalent to human systems from about 50 years ago." "Interesting. They managed to develop space travel with much cleaner technology than we used." Our early fusion reactors were terrible polluters. Yes, Admiral. Their approach is much more environmentally friendly, Yunji nodded approvingly. Any species that prioritized clean technology over raw power showed wisdom and restraint. These Veltans might be excellent allies. Communications, she said to young Min. Contact our research ships. Have them prepare comprehensive technology. Packages for trade negotiations focus on medical advances and defensive systems. Yes, Admiral. Should I include offensive weapons? Let's start with peaceful technology. We don't want to overwhelm them on the first day. Back on the Veltan flagship, Admiral Kethvar was trying to process what he was seeing. The human fleet had deployed scientific vessels and was apparently preparing to share advanced technology. These people were either incredibly generous or so far ahead technologically that giving away secrets didn't matter. Admiral Ionji, he said, your offer of technology exchange is very generous. Generosity has nothing to do with it, Admiral. We've learned that cooperation benefits everyone. Besides, you might have solutions to problems we haven't solved yet. What kind of problems? Well, your clean fusion technology is fascinating. Our reactors work, but they're not as elegant as yours, and your plasma containment systems might help us improve our own weapons. Help them improve their weapons. The humans wanted Veltan technology to make their planet killers even more effective. Admiral, Kethvar said weakly, I should contact my government before we proceed with formal negotiations. Of course. Take all the time you need. My fleet will remain here in case you need anything. Remain here. 43 ships that could sterilize star systems were going to wait patiently while he made phone calls. Thank you for your patience, Admiral. No problem at all. Oh, one more thing. Some of my crew would like to visit your ships, if that's possible. They're very excited about meeting aliens. Visit their ships. The humans wanted to send people aboard Veltan vessels. People who probably carried personal weapons more powerful than Veltan ship guns. That would be acceptable. Excellent. I'll have Captain Tejo from the Diplomatic Corps contact you about arrangements. He's our best cultural liaison. Cultural liaison? The humans had professional alien experts. I look forward to meeting him. Admiral Yunji smiled warmly. This is going to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship, Admiral. Kethvar ended the communication and slumped in his chair. He was now hosting the most powerful military force in galactic history, commanded by a woman who thought friendship meant sharing technology that could destroy civilizations. And the terrifying part was that she seemed completely sincere about wanting to be friends. He was beginning to understand that humanity was the most dangerous species. Dr. Sujin stood in the shuttle bay of the research vessel Discovery, reviewing her notes for the first cultural exchange meeting with the Veltans. As the United Earth Fleet's leading xenobiologist, she had been preparing for this moment her entire career. First contact with an intelligent alien species was the opportunity of a lifetime. Dr. Sujin, called Captain Tejo from the Diplomatic Corps. Are you ready for the exchange? As ready as anyone can be for something that's never happened before, she replied with a smile. I've prepared basic cultural packages covering human history, biology, and social development. Nothing too overwhelming. Good. Remember, these people seem nervous about our technology. Let's focus on the peaceful aspects of human civilization. The shuttle carrying the diplomatic team launched from the Discovery and headed toward the Veltan flagship. As they flew between the two fleets, Dr. Sujin couldn't help but notice the size difference. The smallest human destroyer dwarfed the largest Veltan cruiser. Captain, she said to Tejo, do you think their nervousness might be related to our fleet composition? Possibly. Their technology seems to be about 50 years behind ours. They might be feeling a bit outmatched. Should we have brought fewer ships? Admiral Yunji wanted to make a good impression. Besides, this is a historic moment. Earth Command wanted our best people here. 20 minutes later, their shuttle docked with the Veltan flagship. Admiral Kethvar met them personally in the docking bay, accompanied by several of his senior officers. Dr. Su-Jin was fascinated by their appearance. The Veltans were humanoid but taller, with pale blue skin and large expressive eyes. "Welcome aboard," Admiral Kethvar said through his translation device. "I am honored to host the first human visitors to a Veltan vessel." "The honor is ours." "Admiral," Captain Tejo replied, "Dr. Su-Jin has prepared some information about human culture that might interest you." They were escorted to a conference room where Veltan Science Officer Kethmore was waiting with several other researchers. As they settled around the table, Dr. Su-Jin noticed that the Veltans seemed very tense. "Admiral," she began, "perhaps we could start by discussing our respective homeworlds. I understand your people evolved on a planet with multiple moons." "Yes," Kethmore replied. "Veltas has 3 moons, which created complex tidal patterns. Our early civilization developed around coastal regions where the tides provided natural energy sources." "Fascinating. Earth has only 1 moon, but it's quite large. It stabilized our planet's rotation and created predictable seasons." "What was Earth like when your species evolved?" Dr. Su-Jin smiled. "Challenging. Earth is what we call a high-gravity world with extreme weather patterns. Our early ancestors had to compete with very dangerous predators." Kethmore looked puzzled. "Dangerous? How?" "Well, we evolved alongside creatures like saber-toothed cats, cave bears, and various reptilian predators. Some of them were over 10 meters long and weighed several tons." The Veltans exchanged glances. "Your ancestors fought creatures that large?" "Not fought, exactly. Mostly we tried to avoid them. But when cornered, humans learned to use tools and work together to defend themselves." Admiral Kethvar leaned forward. "What kind of tools?" "Primitive weapons at first. Spears, bows, eventually metal blades. Humans became very good at making weapons out of whatever materials were available." "Making weapons," Kethmore repeated slowly. "This was a survival necessity?" "Absolutely. Earth was not a kind planet. Natural disasters were common. Volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, ice ages, asteroid impacts. Human civilization developed under constant threat." The Veltans looked uncomfortable. Dr. Su-Jin wondered if she was sharing too much detail about human history. "Dr. Su-Jin," Admiral Kethvar said carefully, "when did your people develop space travel?" "About 100 years ago, though it took us another 50 years to develop reliable interstellar travel." "And your weapons technology?" Dr. Su-Jin was surprised by the question. "Which weapons? We've been developing military technology for thousands of years." "Nuclear weapons." "Oh, those. We developed nuclear fission about 80 years ago. Fusion weapons came about 20 years later." Kethmore's face went pale. "You developed nuclear weapons before space travel?" "Yes, by about 30 years. Actually, nuclear technology helped us develop space travel. Early fusion rockets used controlled nuclear reactions for propulsion." "You use nuclear explosions to power your spacecraft?" "Not explosions exactly, controlled fusion reactions. Much more efficient than chemical rockets." Admiral Kethvar looked like he might be sick. "Dr. Su-Jin, when humans first developed nuclear weapons, How did your governments use them? Dr. Sujin realized this was a sensitive topic. Well, there were some conflicts in the early days. 2 nuclear weapons were used in warfare, which ended a major global conflict. After that, most human nations agreed that nuclear weapons were too dangerous for regular warfare. Too dangerous for regular warfare, Kethmore repeated. But acceptable for special circumstances? Not really. We haven't used nuclear weapons. In warfare for over 70 years, they're mainly used for construction projects now. Construction projects? Mining, mostly. Sometimes we need to move large amounts of rock or break up dangerous asteroids. Nuclear charges are very efficient for that kind of work. Captain Tejo noticed that the Veltans were looking increasingly disturbed. Dr. Sujin, perhaps we should discuss something less technical. Of course. Admiral, what would you like to know about human culture? Admiral Kethvar consulted his notes. Dr. Sujin, how do human children learn about these dangerous technologies? Nuclear physics? It's part of standard education. Most children learn basic nuclear theory around age 14 or 15. Children learn to make nuclear weapons. Oh no, not how to make them. That requires advanced training. We just teach them how nuclear reactions work. It's basic science. Kethmore looked horrified. You teach weapon science to children? Dr. Sujin realized there was a serious misunderstanding. Admiral, nuclear physics isn't just weapon science. Nuclear reactions power our cities, our ships, our industrial systems. It's like teaching children about fire or electricity. Fire and electricity don't destroy planets. Well, no. But nuclear reactions don't have to destroy planets either. It's all about how you use the technology. And humans are comfortable giving children knowledge of planet-destroying technology? It's not really planet-destroying unless you specifically design it that way. Besides, children need to understand the science behind their world. Admiral Kethvar exchanged glances with his officers. These humans taught their children about nuclear physics the way Veltans taught basic mathematics. Dr. Sujin, he said slowly, what do human parents consider appropriate education for children? The usual things. Language, mathematics, science, history, arts. Most children also learn basic engineering and technical skills. Technical skills? Simple electronics, basic mechanics, computer programming, things they'll need in adult life. Do they learn about weapons? Dr. Sujin thought for a moment. Safety training mostly. How to recognize dangerous situations. Basic first aid, emergency procedures. Some older children learn to operate industrial equipment. Industrial equipment? Construction machinery, mining tools, transportation systems, nothing too complex until they're adults. Captain Tejo realized the conversation was going in a concerning direction. Dr. Sujin, perhaps the Admiral would be interested in human art and literature. Excellent idea. Admiral, would you like to see some examples of human creative expression? Dr. Sujin activated her portable display and showed images of human paintings, sculptures, and architecture. The Veltans seemed relieved to discuss something that didn't involve planet-destroying technology. This is beautiful, Kethmore said, examining a landscape painting. Very peaceful. Thank you. This was painted during one of Earth's most destructive wars, actually. The artist was a soldier who painted between battles. The Veltans tensed again. Wars? Human history includes many conflicts, unfortunately. But war has also inspired some of our greatest art and literature. How many wars has humanity fought? Dr. Sujin paused, realizing this was another sensitive topic. That's difficult to calculate. Thousands probably, though most were small regional conflicts. Thousands of wars? Well, humans have been around for a long time, and Earth had over 200 separate nations before we unified. Conflicts were inevitable. Admiral Kethvar felt dizzy. These humans came from a world so violent that thousands of wars were considered normal. They taught their children about nuclear physics and considered planet-killing weapons to be construction tools. Dr. Su Jin, he said weakly, how did humanity achieve peace? We haven't really. We've just gotten better at resolving conflicts without warfare. Though we still have disagreements, of course. Disagreements that require nuclear weapons? Oh no. Modern conflicts are usually resolved through diplomacy, economic pressure, or very limited military action. We learned that total warfare is too destructive to be practical. Too destructive to be practical. Not too destructive to be moral, but too destructive to be practical. Admiral Kethvar realized he was talking to representatives of a species that had calculated the optimal level of violence. Dr. Su Jin, he said, what do humans consider excessive military force? That depends on the situation. Generally, we try to use Emperor Korthval sat in the Grand Council chamber of the Veltan Imperial Palace reading Admiral Kethvar's report for the 4th time. Each reading made the situation seem more impossible. Around the circular table, the 12 members of the High Council waited in tense silence. Gentlemen, the Emperor finally said, we appear to be facing an unprecedented situation. High Counselor Vorthrul, head of military affairs, spoke first. Your Majesty, this report must contain errors. No species developed such technology for routine patrol duty. I thought so too, the Emperor replied. So I contacted Admiral Kethvar directly. He confirmed every detail. The humans carry weapons capable of destroying planets on ships they consider outdated. Council member Zethkon, the Empire's chief scientist, adjusted his glasses nervously. Your Majesty, I've reviewed the technical specifications. If accurate, these humans have mastered technologies we consider theoretical impossibilities, such as stable antimatter containment, Your Majesty, controlled stellar-level fusion, kinetic acceleration beyond our mathematical models. They appear to have weaponized the fundamental forces of the universe. High Counselor Yethmora, head of intelligence, raised her hand. Your Majesty, there's another troubling aspect to consider. According to the cultural exchange reports, these humans teach nuclear physics to their children. Children? Yes, Your Majesty. Their society considers knowledge of planet-destroying reactions to be basic education, like teaching mathematics or language. The Emperor felt a chill run down his spine. What kind of species raised their young with knowledge of world-ending weapons? Counselor Yethmora, what else did our cultural analysis reveal? The humans evolved on what they call a deathworld, Your Majesty, a high-gravity planet with extreme weather, dangerous predators, and frequent natural disasters. Their entire civilization developed under constant threat. And this shaped their culture how? They have a very practical relationship with violence, Your Majesty. They fought thousands of wars, developed weapons of mass destruction, and consider military action to be a useful problem-solving tool. Council member Rethval, head of economics, looked puzzled. But Admiral Kethvar reported that they seemed peaceful. They are peaceful in their way, Yethmora replied. But their definition of peace appears to be overwhelming military superiority that makes resistance pointless. The Emperor stood and walked to the great window overlooking the imperial capital. Below, millions of Veltans went about their daily lives, unaware that their entire civilization had just encountered something that could erase them from existence. "High Counselor Vortharel," he said, without turning around. "What are our military options?" "None, Your Majesty. According to the tactical analysis, the human fleet currently in our space could destroy our entire military without taking casualties, and this is apparently just one of their fleets." "How many fleets do they have?" "Unknown, Your Majesty, but Admiral Kethvar reported that this was called the Third Fleet, implying they have at least 3 such forces." The Emperor returned to his seat. "Council Member Zethkon, is there any possibility our sensors are malfunctioning?" "I wish I could say yes, Your Majesty, but I've reviewed the data extensively. Our readings are accurate. The humans possess technology that exceeds our capabilities by several centuries." "Several centuries?" "Conservative estimate, Your Majesty. They may be millennia ahead of us in weapons development." High Counselor Yethmora consulted her reports. "Your Majesty, there's one more troubling detail. The human admiral mentioned that half their fleet would be replaced within a decade." "Replaced?" "Their technology advances so rapidly that they consider ships capable of destroying star systems to be obsolete after 10 years. The Emperor felt his world spinning. These humans improved their planet-killing technology faster than the Veltan Empire could update computer software. "Counselors," he said slowly, "we need to make a decision. How do we respond to this situation?" High Counselor Vorthril consulted his military manual. "Your Majesty, traditional protocol calls for immediate military response to territorial incursion. And the result of such response? Total annihilation of Veltan forces, Your Majesty. Then traditional protocol seems inadequate." Council Member Gethmore, head of diplomatic affairs, raised his hand. "Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider alternative approaches." "Such as?" "The humans have expressed interest in peaceful relations. They offered technology exchange and formal diplomatic contact." "Technology exchange?" The Emperor looked hopeful. "What are they offering?" "Medical advances, defensive systems, and basic industrial techniques." "Basic by whose standards?" "Theirs, Your Majesty. Their basic medical technology could probably cure diseases we consider incurable." The Emperor considered this. "And what would they want in return?" "Nothing immediately, Your Majesty. They seem genuinely interested in friendship." "Friendship with whom?" "With us, Your Majesty. They want to establish formal relations with the Veltan Empire." High Counselor Vorthrel looked skeptical. "Your Majesty, no species offers advanced technology without expecting something in return." Council Member Zethkon cleared his throat. "Actually, Your Majesty, the human approach makes sense from their perspective." "How so?" "They're so far ahead technologically that sharing basic advances costs them nothing. It's like giving away last year's computer model when you're already building next decade's system." "And they benefit how?" "Stable neighbors, Your Majesty. Peaceful trade partners. Access to our unique plasma technology. The humans may be advanced, but they still value different approaches to problem solving." The Emperor looked around the table at his advisors. These were the wisest minds in the Veltan Empire, and they were all suggesting surrender disguised as diplomacy. "Counselors," he said finally, "let me understand our options. We can fight and be destroyed, or we can negotiate and become a client state." "Not necessarily a client state, Your Majesty," Gethmore said hopefully. "The humans seem to prefer equal partnerships." Equal? How can we be equal partners with beings who consider planet killers to be outdated patrol equipment? Perhaps equality isn't about military power, Your Majesty. We could offer cultural exchange, scientific collaboration, artistic cooperation. Hi. Counselor Yethmora nodded. The humans seem genuinely interested in our clean fusion technology, Your Majesty, and our plasma containment systems impressed their scientists. Our primitive plasma systems impressed people who have antimatter weapons? Apparently, Your Majesty. The human admiral said our technology was elegant and could help improve their own systems. The Emperor realized something important. Counselors, these humans could have simply conquered us without negotiation. The fact that they're offering partnership suggests they're not interested in domination. Exactly, Your Majesty, Gethmore agreed. They want allies, not subjects. Or, Vorthrel added grimly, they want us to surrender voluntarily to avoid the unpleasantness of conquest. The Emperor stood again and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was setting over the capital city. Millions of Veltans were ending their workday, going home to families, planning for the future. A future that now depended on the goodwill of aliens who taught nuclear physics to children. High Counselor Vorthrel, he said, send a message to Admiral Kethvar. He is authorized to begin formal diplomatic negotiations with the humans. Yes, Your Majesty. What terms should he propose? Whatever terms they offer. We're not in a position to negotiate. Your Majesty, Gethamore said carefully, perhaps we could frame this as an opportunity rather than a surrender. How so? The humans represent the most advanced civilization we've ever encountered. Partnership with them could advance Veltan technology by centuries. We could learn from them. And in exchange, we offer what we have. Our culture, our perspectives, our friendship. Sometimes the most powerful beings value things that can't be conquered. The Emperor nodded slowly. It was a gamble, but the alternative was extinction. Very well. Send word to Admiral Kethvar. The Veltan Empire formally accepts the human offer of diplomatic relations. Yes, Your Majesty. And counselors? Yes, Your Majesty. Pray that these humans really are as peaceful as they claim to be. Because if they're not, we've just invited the most dangerous species in the galaxy to destroy us. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Veltan Empire had just voluntarily surrendered to aliens who considered weapons of mass destruction to be basic tools. And somehow, that felt like the safest choice they could make. 6 months after first contact, Ambassador Tejo stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Human Veltan Cultural Exchange Station, watching ships from both civilizations dock at the massive facility. The station orbited the border between human and Veltan space, serving as a symbol of the most successful first contact in galactic history. The irony wasn't lost on him. What had started as a potential military confrontation had become a partnership that benefited both species. The Veltans provided elegant plasma technology and clean fusion designs that helped humans build more efficient systems. In return, humans shared medical advances that had extended Veltan lifespans by 30% and defensive technologies that made their ships nearly indestructible. Ambassador, called Dr. Sujin as she approached with a datapad, the latest reports from the joint research teams are very encouraging. What have they discovered? The Veltan approach to plasma containment is revolutionizing our weapon systems. Instead of brute force energy projection, they use elegant magnetic field manipulation. It's actually more effective than our current methods. Taeho smiled. And what are the Veltans learning from us? Everything, apparently. Dr. Kethmore says that human medical technology has solved diseases they've struggled with for centuries, and our defensive shield systems have made their ships virtually immune to conventional weapons. Any problems with the technology transfer? Only one. We had to stop sharing certain weapon technologies. Why? The Veltans got terrified when they learned about our planet crackers. Emperor Korthval specifically requested that we not show them how to build anything that could destroy worlds. Taeho laughed. They don't want planet-killing weapons? Apparently not. They consider such things morally unacceptable for civilized beings. But they're fine with us having them? They say humans are different. We evolved on a death world, so we understand the responsible use of dangerous technology. Through the observation window, Taeho could see a Veltan transport ship docking next to a human destroyer. The size difference was still dramatic, but the Veltan ship now carried human defensive systems that made it nearly as durable as the destroyer. Dr. Soo-jin, how are the cultural exchanges progressing? Better than anyone expected. Veltan children are fascinated by human history, especially our stories of overcoming natural disasters and dangerous predators. Human children love Veltan, art, and music. The exchange students are learning more in 6 months than most diplomats learn in years. Any cultural conflicts? Minor ones. Human children sometimes frighten Veltan adults by casually discussing nuclear physics, and Veltan children worry human adults by asking innocent questions about weapons of mass destruction. But both sides are adapting remarkably well. The Veltans are beginning to understand that humans view dangerous technology as tools rather than weapons, and humans are learning that not every species needs to be prepared for planetary extinction events. A soft chime indicated an incoming priority message. Taeho activated his communication device and Admiral Yoonji's face appeared on the screen. "Ambassador," she said, "I have interesting news from Earth Command." "What kind of news, Admiral?" "We've been contacted by 3 other alien civilizations. They're requesting diplomatic meetings." "Really? How did they find us?" "They found the Veltans first. Emperor Korthval has been telling everyone about his alliance with humanity. Apparently, word is spreading that humans make excellent allies." Taeho felt a mixture of excitement and concern. "What do we know about these other species?" "Very little. But they all made the same request. They want to establish the same kind of partnership arrangement that we have with the Veltans." Partnership. Arrangement? Protection in exchange for friendship. These species have heard that humans are peaceful but powerful, and they want to be on our good side. Dr. Soo-jin looked up from her data pad. "Admiral, are these species requesting protection from specific threats?" "Not exactly. They just don't want to be on the wrong side of a civilization that uses antimatter weapons for asteroid mining." Taeho realized what was happening. "Admiral, I think we've accidentally become the galaxy's peacekeeping force." "It looks that way. Earth Command is calling it the Human Stability Initiative. The idea is that other species will be less likely to fight each other if they know humans are watching. And if they do fight, then we intervene with appropriate force to restore peace quickly." Appropriate force. Taeho knew what that meant coming from humans. Planet crackers for major conflicts, continent crackers for regional disputes, city killers for local problems. "Admiral," he said, "are we sure this is a good idea? Becoming the galaxy's police force is a big responsibility. Earth Command thinks it's inevitable, Our technology gap with other species is so large that they're going to defer to us whether we want them to or not. We might as well make it official and do it properly. Dr. Sujin looked thoughtful. Actually, this makes sense from a xenobiological perspective. Humans evolved as persistence hunters and problem solvers. Other species might naturally look to us for leadership in crisis situations. But only if we prove ourselves trustworthy, Tae-ho added. One mistake, and we become the galactic threat instead of the galactic protector, which is why the Veltan partnership is so important, Admiral Yunji replied. There are proof of concept. Emperor Korthval tells everyone that humans are dangerous but honorable. That's the reputation we need. Through the observation window, Tae-ho watched a group of Veltan and human children playing together in the I station's recreation area. They were building something with construction blocks, working together despite their different species and very different cultural backgrounds. Admiral, he said. What did Admiral Jinwoo think about becoming a galactic peacekeeping force? He laughed and said he should have been more careful about scanning alien ships. Apparently, this all started because the Veltans got scared when they analyzed the Thunderstrike's weapons. And now he's been promoted to sector commander. Admiral Jinwoo will oversee human relations with all species in this region of space. His first contact experience makes him uniquely qualified. Dr. Sujin smiled. The Veltans specifically requested him. They trust him because he's the human who didn't accidentally start a war on first contact. Speaking of which, Admiral Unji said, how is Emperor Korthval handling his new role as humanity's biggest advocate? He loves it, Tae-ho replied. He tells everyone that allying with humans was the best decision the Veltan Empire ever made. Apparently, their economy has grown by 40% since we started trading with them. And their military? Completely transformed. They still can't build anything like human weapons, but their ships are now nearly indestructible thanks to our defensive technology. Emperor Korthval says they feel safer than they have in centuries. Safe enough to start exploring again? Yes, Admiral. Veltan survey ships are mapping new systems under human protection. They're finding resources and making contact with species they never would have approached before. Admiral Yunji nodded approvingly. That's exactly what Earth Command hoped for. Peaceful exploration backed by overwhelming deterrent force. Admiral, Dr. Sujin said, what happens when we encounter a species that isn't impressed by our weapons? We hope we never do. But if we meet someone with technology that matches ours, we'll have to rely on diplomacy instead of intimidation. And if diplomacy fails, then we find out whether humans are as good at making peace as we are at making war. Tae-ho looked out at the mixed fleet of human and Veltan ships surrounding the station. 6 months ago, those ships had faced each other as potential enemies. Now they worked together as allies, protecting trade routes and exploring new regions of space. Admiral, he said, I think we've created something unprecedented here. What's that? A galactic order based on voluntary cooperation instead of conquest. Other species choose to ally with us because they want our protection and friendship, not because we've conquered them. And that's sustainable? As long as we keep proving that we're more valuable as allies than we are dangerous as enemies? Admiral Yunji smiled. Ambassador, I think you've just defined humanity's new mission in the galaxy, which is to be so overwhelmingly powerful that everyone else chooses peace over war, and so genuinely peaceful that everyone trusts us with that power. Through the observation window, Tae-ho watched a human destroyer and a Veltan cruiser leaving together on a joint patrol mission. The ships looked like an odd pair, but they represented something important. Two species that had learned to work together despite their differences. Admiral, he said, 6 months ago, the Veltans scanned our ship and realized they'd made a big error in judgment. And now? Now they tell everyone that meeting humans was the best mistake they ever made. Admiral Yunji laughed. Ambassador, I think that's going to be humanity's legacy in this galaxy. We're the species other civilizations are grateful to. Encounter even when we scare them half to death. Tejo nodded, watching more ships arrive at the station. Representatives from dozens of species, all coming to learn about the humans who had accidentally become the galaxy's most trusted peacekeepers. It had all started with a simple scan of a human warship. Now, 6 months later, that scan had created a new era of galactic cooperation. The Veltans had indeed mad.